So when you work in the game industry, you learn a couple of things. Really, you learn that it's all a big magic trick, and that the goal is really for developers to try and hide the artificiality of the game and get you lost in this fantasy reality they've created. Well, Yandere Simulator, I think it takes another approach. You see, I really think we could call Yandere Sim, okay, I think we could call this game a postmodern masterstroke. Really, because this game tries as hard as possible to make you aware of the fact that it is indeed an unpolished video game. And yes, I know it's a demo, but it's been 6 years. We gotta call it at some point. I'm calling it here. Now, yes, I know I have no beard. Get over it. Now, last time I covered Yandere Sim, 2 things happened. I single-handedly forced Yandev to finish Osana, which I would like more credit for. Please give me clap emojis in the comments. Anyway, I take all credit for doing so, and all of that work was my doing. Thank you very much. Also, last video we figured out that Yandev has a fixation on blonde-haired bombshells and dojins about big titty milfs and smug anime girls. Goodbye, advertisers. I knew ye well. Really, I think there's 2 types of weebs: the smug, self-righteous gotcha peddler, and the Coomer consumer, who we all know likes hentai and can tell us what kind of hentai it is based on a Dewey Decimal System. Now, I said if something related to Yan Sim's development that I'd give it a shake, but who knew that literally a week later something would come out worth my time? But it turns out I need a large Hadron Collider to play this game, which really doesn't make for good gameplay. So of course, performance is gonna kind of suck, and you're gonna see that when I play clips from the game, but, you know, life's rough, you know? So today, we're going to be comparing Yandere Sim to not only its contemporary comparisons that Yandev has made, but we're also going to be comparing it to just a couple other games in general, because I play a lot of stealth action games. In fact, I play a lot of stealth action games. But first, this video was brought to you by my new merch. Quality clothing and prints with new designs inspired by Rubber Hose animation. Pick up a Sailor Scully shirt, or perhaps a Caffeinated AF shirt down below and even on the YouTube shelf. Except it doesn't do it right away, so it'll take a day or 2. So let's break into this game. The narrative of Yandere Sim is really the beginning of the problems.
I wanted to establish myself as a legitimate and trustworthy developer.
I don't understand why I'm still getting hate.
The moment you publicly acknowledge them, they will experience orgasmic pleasure.
Stick that cactus up your ass and vigorously, violently shove it in and out of your ass.
One of the best functions of games is generated empathy by allowing us to live through the characters we're playing as. Which is why this intro is a huge problem. It's basically a super long, poorly animated cutscene. Which is funny because I believe this is Alex's specialty. So, this intro does a couple things. We learn who Yandere-chan is, and then it introduces the first target, which is our girl Osana Najimi, with a great name, just means childhood friend in English. Not only does this take too long, it just really just... It takes so long to get through this intro. And then on top of that, they introduce another character who's apparently extremely important that I've never heard about until now, called Info-chan. Info-chan is just a man in the chair type character, you know, like Ned from Spider-Man, except, I mean, he doesn't really do anything in those movies. He's just there to be fat, funny kid. Basically, Info-chan's gonna tutorialize your first run, and she's the one who kind of like organizes all the contracts for Ayano, who is the name of Yandere-chan. Also, the game in these first couple of moments, it really breaks the cardinal sin of UI design, which here, that cardinal sin is too cluttered and putting light text on a light background. Graphic design is my passion. Rectangles and pink and white on a white square. Great idea. I gotta say, the parallels between this and the Hitman reboot are really apparent. So I'll be comparing this to the Paris level, which is your first real mission in Hitman Season 1. They released the game in seasons, technically. It's very complicated. The game's great. Play them. Anyway, I've played a lot of Hitman 1 and Hitman 2 from IO Interactive. And really, just, I play a lot of stealth games. I've played Dishonored. I've played the Hitman games. I love stealth games. Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid, I mean, you can't can you really go wrong with Metal Gear Solid? Now, the issue with Osana narratively is really this, and I feel like this is going to impact the game quite negatively, because it's really something baked into what this game is at its core. Yandere-chan is clearly a bad person, with a goal that is bad, but we as the audience should want to root for her, right? If this is a Persona level story, we're gonna spend a lot of time getting to know the people we're supposed to kill, and you can do that with Osana. You can get to know who she is and what she's like, and you're supposed to kind of agree with Yandere-chan that these are bad women that are not worth Senpai's time. But you know, after about 8 hours of playing this game, what makes Osana unworthy? What makes her not worth of Senpai? The way we justify the kill and why we kill characters in these games, right? You have to make it satisfying narratively for the player. You have to make Osana a target worthy of the kill. She needs to do more than like Senpai and be the rude childhood friend Tsundere who has a crush. And let's be real here, the cop-out that, oh, Yandere-chan is crazy, it's really a cop-out. That's what it is. It's not a good enough reason for the murder. Okay, for example, look at Joker, right? Let's look at that movie. He's a bad person. He's a shitty person who does shitty things. But what allows the audience to get behind him and the world around him, right, is that everybody else is much worse than he is. In a way, he's trying to convince the audience that we were watching this, right? That, you know, this character is the lesser evil, right? Because these other people are responsible for systemic evil and other awful, horrendous things, and Joker's really just putting that on display. Like, you can make Osana feel just as good and satisfying as the climax of Joker, right? When you know she's more of a shitty person. The people you kill in Hitman are all worse than the government organization that, or I guess it's not technical, I think it's like a private organization. Point of the matter is that all of the people that Agent 47 kills are way worse than Agent 47. If, you know, you were shooting Mother Teresa in the face, it would not feel the same way. Now, I know the Yandev fans in the comments are going to be talking about how Hitman and Yandere Simulator are not alike, because there is a difference at Yandere Simulator. You commit all the crimes in the same place versus the assassination and globetrotting spy adventure that is Hitman. But the Paris level is structured in a very similar way to the high school in Yandere Simulator is. They're both rectangular, multi-level shaped buildings with lots of nooks and crannies in the side, and out to each side of the building there are empty fields where other activities are taking place parallel to the main story that's going on inside the building. So these things are very similar. The breakdown at the beginning of this is to tell us where we're going and who we're doing and who we're going to be killing and all that jazz. So that's what's important here.
Is the Paris Fashion Show by Sanguine, one of Europe's leading couture brands. Your targets are Sanguine owner Viktor Novikov, a former oligarch turned fashion mogul, and his partner Dalia Margolis, a retired supermodel, an iconic power couple on the global fashion scene, and two of the most dangerous people in the world.
So yeah, I understand that they're literally pointing out there that they're incredibly dangerous people, and that's very on the nose. They're about to explain exactly what it is these people do. Now, here's what makes Agent 47 less of a bad than they are. In this particular one, because later on in the story there's like internal subterfuge between the imaginary organizations of the Hitman universe, but in this it's just basically a contract before any of that stuff has been uncovered. But these two people have information related to MI6. Those of you for unfamiliar, that's kind of like the CIA, but for British people. But yeah, these people are incredibly bad. These people are super terrorists disguised as incredibly famous people. If you think people like Osama bin Laden are bad, these are kind of like people who give him money to do bad things.
Novikov and Margolis are in fact the ringleaders of Iago, an enigmatic spy ring that deals in the global elite's most valuable secrets. Unscrupulous and opportunistic, Iago has caused disastrous security leaks all over the globe. When Crimean separatists caused a deadly meltdown at the Odessa nuclear power plant, Iago gave them access to the plant's security network. And when the Delgado drug cartel shot down the plane of President Hernandez and his family, Iago provided the classified flight plans. Now Novikov and Margolis have obtained a knock list of British undercover agents, which they plan to sell at a secret Iago auction during the Sanguine show. So our client, MI6, need us to stop the ringleaders before the knock list ends up in the wrong hands.
Okay, everybody knows how dangerous a reactor meltdown can be. In fact, right now, Chernobyl's gotten much more popular because of the HBO series and all of that. But here we get to hear about a very large loss of life and awful thing that happened. These awful things kind of set up why these people need to die and why it's important for them to die. Again, later on in Hitman, there are personal reasons why Hitman and his crew are essentially going after certain people, but in this one in particular, we're specifically looking at the just specific reasons why they're bad. In the context of the narrative, there's reasons why other targets are bad, but these are particularly these people. But the theming is the same, is that the person that Hitman is killing is much worse than whoever he is or who he's been hired by. It's the rule of lesser of two evils. Obviously, there's the whole, being a spy is cool thing, but it is also laced with this idea of, well, I'm a bad person and I do bad things, and it's very clear that Agent 47 is a very gray character, because he works for whoever can afford it. But usually, and this is pretty much with every single Hitman target, every single person you're going to end up killing is going to be way worse than whoever hired you. Usually what happens in these stories is that Agent 47 and whoever he's working with are technically the good guys. They're convinced to us as being good guys, and because we, the viewer, understand that they are the good guys, we can go along with them. They don't need to be good people. We're viewing it through their lens. For example, in Metal Gear Solid 5, it's the same story where you are the bad guy, but you're playing the game from the perspective of the bad guy. And let me just say, there's also other issues with Metal Gear Solid 5's narrative, where you're basically playing a gigantic diversion tactic. It gets annoying, it gets really ridiculous, but the stealth games lend themselves really well to spies and plays like that. Alright, so here's the opening of Yandere Simulator, and I skipped the first opening because they introduce Osana twice. They introduce Osana as having a crush on Senpai in a dramatic cutscene where Ayano watches Osana and Senpai talk, and then Info-chan introduces Osana again via this text conversation that we're about to watch. So I'm showing you what's happening visually, but that first introduction of Osana isn't important in terms of narrative compared to what Info-chan gives about Osana, because we want to know who she is, right, for why she needs to die here in this kind of concept. We know that Ayano doesn't like other women being around Senpai, but this is where the important stuff happens.
I saw you stalking an upperclassman today.
I'm sorry, there must be some misunderstanding.
There's no need to play dumb with me. I'm trying to help you. Want some information about the girl he was with?
I'm listening.
Her name is Osana Najimi. She has a crush on him.
Okay, so in this intro, we're introduced to Info-chan, this character that's a man-in-a-chair type character, and is kind of established as being much more powerful and important than Yandere-chan, which I think is interesting in terms of a character. I can see Info-chan becoming like a late-game target or something like that, though I do have a feeling that's not going to happen. But there does seem to be this air of this character doesn't have your best interest in mind, more or less kind of like she's pushing Ayano on to becoming a murderer rather than her being one herself. There's a lot of interesting ways you could take this story, but I feel it's not going in ways that I think would be interesting, right? I think her realizing, I've been murdering and it's been wrong, and it's this person that's been playing me. And then they go and they do a righteous killing and they make the world a better place. You can make this character a lot more redeeming, you know, instead of this kind of downtrodden character. But you know what? I don't want to help him. You know, we're just explaining who Osana is in this current time.
She's planning to confess to him next Friday, underneath the cherry tree behind the school. There's a myth that if you confess your love to someone underneath that tree, the person you confess to can't refuse.
Okay, so here's where Hitman gets off explaining really basic things, like you're going to Paris, France, or being really, you know, straightforward about where you're going and what kind of place it is because he hasn't been there, okay? But Ayano goes to this high school. She knows what this myth is. This is Info-chan talking to us. It's a bit weird. Maybe work this into the narrative, but I mean, this is like a small little nitpick. You know, when you're writing something, you don't want to explain stuff a character already knows to a character. You know, like Ayano should know this. She definitely should know this. There's no reason for this to be elaborated on at all. If you want to include this cherry tree thing, because it is important, right? It tells you where your deadline is. You can't let her get to that tree on the last day of the week. You have until Friday, up until that point, right? So that's where you know you can't pass go. Like, that's important. Rather say, oh, let's make Info-chan like say, oh, she's gonna confess under the cherry tree this Friday, and Ayano can reply, or like say Info-chan can ask, like, you know what happens under the cherry tree, then Ayano can explain the myth to Info-chan, you know, so that way at least it's like we know the character knows in that rate. I think it would just be better for the conversation. But you know, I'd love to know what other writers down in the comments think. I might honestly be wrong about the idea that characters need to be, you know, we need to have a reason to root for Ayano in comparison to the rest of these characters, because you know, me sitting here going, oh well, these characters should be worse, like who knows if I'm right. I'd love to know everybody else's take. Tell me how you would make Osana more compelling as a villain.
Why are you telling me this?
I would be happy if something bad happened to Osana-chan. I think you might be the right person to give her what she deserves.
Who are you?
Have you ever heard of Info-chan?
An urban legend about a girl who hacks people and sells their dirty secrets to the highest bidder.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. I sell a lot more than just blackmail.
Are you trying to tell me that you're Info-chan? Do you really expect me to believe that?
I've installed an app on your phone. Take a look.
How did you do that?
That's not something you need to be concerned with. If you do a few small favors for me, I can offer a wide variety of services that should help you eliminate Osana-chan. Everything you need to know is in that app.
And what if I don't want anything to do with you?
If you're not interested in my services, I won't take it personally. Feel free to ignore me. But don't ignore Osana-chan. You have 1 week until she confesses to your precious senpai. Make her suffer.
Okay, that's really it in terms of what we get to know about the target before going into it. And this is fine in terms of like setup. It would help to know more about where the person is or where the person is going. As far as info goes, Info-chan isn't very helpful in making sure the job gets done. It's more like, yeah, I can help you if Osanza is dead, but yeah, I'm not really gonna help you aside from that. It's like, I don't know where she goes, I don't know what she does, I don't know where she's gonna be, I don't know. You need to give me something more. You know, I'm not saying make Osana a human trafficker and like a Bond-type villain, but she needs to do a little bit more than be bashfully rude to the guy. Like, you kill Osana, and her friend, her friend Raibaru Fumutsu, there we go. Don't worry, guys, I'm actually studying Japanese. I'm so great at it, can't you tell? Anyway, her friend, her Pigtails, that's her name now, it's Pigtails. Pigtails becomes sad. After killing Osana, you can play the rest of the demo, And this girl is just absolutely heartbroken at the death or, you know, missing nature of her friend.
Oh, she's sad because her friend isn't here. You know, usually when you play like you know when you kill people in Hitman, they're like fucking awful, and you don't feel bad about killing them afterwards. This game, you just killed a teenage girl, and she didn't really do anything.
Really what you see is that her best friend is gone now, and you're the responsible party. and it really doesn't feel like you did the right thing. You know, when I killed the people on the Paris level, I felt like it made the world a better place. I did not feel that here. Listen, it might just be me, but I think it would be more compelling if Osana was truly awful, right? If we're going to talk about this from a narrative and writing perspective, right, let's make this a twisted real-world version of the tsundere archetype, right? Similar to how, you know, like a game like The Witcher plays on the fantasy tropes, play on the anime tropes a bit more and give it a bit more character aside from stock anime girl who is bashful but also likes the guy but can't tell her, so she acts mean. You know how many times I've seen that? Do you really think I care? So instead of bashful and rude, let's actually make her horrific and abusive. I really don't think that this game is capable of handling comedic nature and handling horrific nature in the same time. So let's just lean on all the serious stuff and all the awful shit, right? Because I think it'll just make a better game. You know, in a way, it kind of would structure Yandere-chan as this protector of Senpai, right? And since this also wants to be a game where it's like Persona and making choices matter, you know, so you can either expose a murder to the school or not, and it'll change how people feel. You know, it's going to change how bullies act and how people react, and it would really just make it more impactful if Osana is a bad person who, the death of which will change how the school is structured. Really, right now, it just seems like you took away somebody that people kind of liked, you know, and it could change how the school operates, you know, kind of like on a like mission per mission basis, similar to how stealth games like Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain work, where if you operate by going out at night all the time, guards will end up having night vision goggles or end up with body armor depending on how many bullets you shoot and other stuff like that. Look, the point is, thematically, you not only feel like you don't earn the kill of Osana, but you also feel like it wasn't the right thing to do, which isn't a great way to convince players to keep playing, narratively speaking. Look, I understand some people that play this game might be crazy people, but let's just go out on a limb here, say that most people aren't crazy, so they're not going to take satisfaction from harming somebody who is completely innocent. Also, let me just say that the persona system in this game, that means students matter, is really just a horrendous idea to mix with the Hitman-style mission-based contract-killing game. Imagine if by killing a non-target in story events, right, that this person wasn't in future story events. Some of these characters will be important to the plot of the game, so killing them would be really, really complicated and is gonna make your job so much harder. Let alone how this would change things up mechanically. Like, mechanically is one thing, but narratively, that's already a huge task for one guy to complete, alright? Like, Jesus. Like, if I somehow kill the majority of the students, I could end up just not having a game. Yeah, the rivals don't show up, there's only one a week, but technically, I could make the school a ghost town because most of the students aren't invulnerable. And we're gonna get to that. Speaking of mechanics and murder, the cleanup of murders is like an awful idea. It really is. Like, there really isn't an incentive in not killing a witness, you know, and these AI have tunnel vision as it is, and I can just drag their body like feet away from a crowd. Like, that's how it operates. Here's literally a clip of me dragging Osana right behind girls having lunch. Right behind them. And as I've said, the thematic balancing of all this is just absolutely just terrible. As somebody who enjoys writing, the writing is horrible, right? I highly doubt any of the comedy is gonna cut any of the stock anime tropes that are just littered throughout this game. You know, I get it. Stock anime tropes, ha 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 ha, she's a tsundere, ha ha, like, I get it. You know what does it better? Madoka Magica. You know what does it better? All these other animes that have come out before this. Narratively, the issues are pretty staggering, and they really present a huge huge issue, and you need to map them out way in advance. I know, for example, like in Netflix, they used the Twine to write the script for Bandersnatch, and you really need to write something out where you can see how all your choices affect everything, so you realize where everything's gonna go where. And I kind of look at this game and I go, he doesn't have a fucking clue where this is going. Really, the story of this game comes off as lacking the ability to understand the themes of the source material this is based on. And as a result, you just come up with this cheap imitation of what is much better games somewhere else that handle the same kind of subject matter somewhere else better. Now, before we break into the assassination and mechanics of this game, let's talk Persona, which clearly had a huge impact on this game. Aside from the narrative issues, let's also look at the themes of Persona, right? The Persona games have varied in theme, but we're going to go off on a limb here and say that 5 had the biggest impact. I don't know why. I think I might know why. So, Persona 5 is a brilliant work of rebellious expression, right? Japan is really a collectivist country, and the ideas of rebellion and standing out against the crowd are much more of a contentious fact in that country than they are here in the States. Aside from the supernatural, it is weird for teens to stand out. Dyeing your hair, being quarter American, the confidants you make in Persona 5 are outcasts for one reason or another. You know, these are people who are kind of ostracized by society because they don't fit the status quo. And it's what makes you feel compelled to bond with them, because you feel a certain kinship with them being Joker. There's also a lot of Christian symbolism in this game through the eyes of Japanese folk who are primarily not a religious country in general. And it's interesting to see how these themes of Christian symbolism are really tackled by a culture that might actually agree with the themes and how these are bad virtues. Well, I guess these aren't virtues. They're the 7 deadly sins, right? But, you know, just how this culture, like, acts around people who are like this and how they feel about people who are these kind of people. Hell, even the UI expresses the themes of the game. I mean, just look at this. It's loud, it's bold pop art. There's a kinetic rebellion to the movement of the menus. It is gorgeous, it is beautiful, and it deserves all the awards that it's gotten. The music in the game is jazz inspired, and it's peppered throughout the game, and it inherits all of the qualities that make jazz rebellious music, right? Since the jazz genre is known for not conforming, right? You have pieces that improvise and present a musician's personality and a character's personality by going off of the status quo of the song, doing its own thing. Everything in Persona reinforces its themes. Yandere Sim includes Persona-like mechanics, not to present anything interesting, but because, hey, I like Persona and Takami is hot. I'll say this a couple times in the video, but when you present your game by comparing it in relation to better games, you aren't making a game. You are shooting the shit about a hypothetical game you think is cool because all of these mechanics are great in a vacuum. Okay, so I think I hit the themes and the narrative, so let's get into actual mechanics gameplay of Yandere Simulator. Osana is going to confess her love to Senpai on Friday. You have a week to find her and kill her, okay? That's basically it. Each day, new events present themselves to give you a chance to kill Osana in unique and interesting ways, and that's basically the game. This is very similar to Hitman, right? Similar to Hitman, similar to the Paris level in particular, same structure and everything with a square-shaped building and outer perimeter of gardens and stuff like that. But, you know, you got all this space, you can see the target, you can see Senpai from the moment the level says go. And there's a crowd everywhere, rendering the murder pretty much impossible, though some people would beg to differ.
The show is just about to start. This is the red carpet event of the season, and the guest list is a veritable who's who of the global fashion elite. You will find Victor Novikov basking in the spotlight, while Dalia Margolis hosts the heavily guarded auction on the second floor for a group of Iago's top customers. Now, event security will keep a watchful eye on any suspicious activity, but I trust your timeless look shall fit right in. Good luck, 47.
Sorry. I can't believe you overslept again. fights, just like back in middle school.
I'm sorry.
I'm not your personal alarm clock, you know. You can't rely on me to wake you up every day.
Look, you don't need to pay attention to any of this stuff or any of the information about Osana. Don't need to know her or get to know her any better or do anything. Don't listen to the conversations. They're not important. Okay, follow this way to the gardening club. Join the gardening club, okay? And now once you get access to the gardening club, you can just take anything you want from their shed. And they have rat poison in there. Okay, take the rat poison, and now you're going to go back to your classroom. And then in your classroom, you're going to put the rat poison in the bento box that she's going to give to Senpai. Alright, so you put it in the pink bento box, because of course Osana has the pink bento box. Alright, now just wait for lunch. You can go to class, level up your thing. It doesn't matter what you do now, right? All you have to do is now follow Osana and Pigtails and meet up with them upstairs on the roof and hide behind a wall. And now she's going to eat the bento box and she's going to go vomit. When she's vomiting, you just drown her in the toilet. This is the easiest kill that I've gotten that adheres to the mechanics of the game and isn't me deliberately exploiting the game in any way. Now, after you've drowned her, all you have to do is drag her body all the way out to the furnace, which they don't really do a good job of telling you where it is. Here it is on the map. Then you just drag her out to the furnace. You can drag her all the way from that top floor bathroom all the way outside without anybody noticing you because the AI can't see anything at all. They have tunnel vision, they're stupid, they're dumb. And you can do this kill in about 15 minutes. Like, literally the whole entire demo can be done like, just like that. It's really that easy. And really, you could do it a lot faster if it wasn't for everybody moving like a fucking geriatric. Like, there is zero skill involved in this kill, and it is optimal, okay? Like, you don't get the hint system that you get in Hitman, but you might as well just use other people's playthroughs because there is no telling you how to play this game at all. Like, this is optimal, right? Because any blunt object or stabbing weapon at this point in the game will lead to blood loss, making you either need to clean it up or remove evidence that you killed anybody in the first place. That means you gotta go bathe, incinerate your clothing, incinerate the weapon, incinerate the body. At this point, you're just wasting time, okay? You're just wasting so much time trying to hide the murder, the fact that you murdered. There is no reason to do this because it is not optimal. Seriously, any other way you kill someone, you need to move fast because if you wanted to be, you know, completely safe, nobody noticing you're there, completely ghosting, you know, which I do, like, you like the just ridiculous MGS playthroughs where you're like no trank, blah, 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 like all that crazy shit, ghosting completely 100%. You know, if you're shooting for something like that, you got to work really fast to clean up the kill. You got to clean up all the blood, clean up everything, and make sure there's no witnesses. It's just ridiculously overly complicated. And oh, if you thought of killing Osana in front of Pigtails, think again, buddy, because you can't. Why? Because she says, plain as day, I'm actually like really strong, which is my favorite writing ever because, you know, characters who are good at fighting just open up a conversation or say in conversation, well, I can stop them. I'm really strong. How about you just lay it out for us? There's no subtlety in that whatsoever. It's just there, you know, in a one-off conversation. But you'd probably find out that Pigtails is invincible way before this because your first kill on Osana will probably be get a sharp object, stab her in front of her friend, and go stab her friend. Oh, you can't do that. You can't stab Pigtails. Pigtails is an invincible bodyguard. Are you kidding me? Well, technically she's invincible unless you use underhanded means. But let's be real here. Why are you going to take multiple days to kill Osana when you can just knock her out on Monday and be done with it for the rest of the week and then focus on leveling up your power on your character and building your build instead of just... Oh my god, it is so incredibly stupid that she's invincible. It really is. If anything, you should make them both kill targets, right? And have two creative ways to kill each of them, right? So that way, at least it's more of a challenge, and you can't do the kill in one day. You got to do it in a span of 2 days. But the way it's structured, I can just knock this out in no time, and it's not an exploit. And if he patches it out, he's just removing mechanics from how you kill people. Seriously, any other way to kill Osana is so not optimal, right? Because if one of these dumb anime robots finds the body on the floor, they're basically going to start a timer that in 5 minutes the police are going to show up. And the police are game over, basically, right? Unless you, like, clean up the murder and all that stuff. But by the time a student sees the body, you're basically SOL, okay? Like, there's no point. You might as well just restart. There's really no reason to keep going at this point. And everything moves so slow at this point in the game that you're better off just stopping. Like, the kill for drowning her is just so simple. There's no dramatic tension involved. It adds nothing to the game, really. And the music, now, for some reason, whenever I went to record the game, the music would not play. But I can assure you that it is just dumb, peppy visual novel music. It does not fit the tone of dragging a body across the floor. And it's not comedy. That's not a joke. That's a I don't understand how music impacts the tension of a game or a scene. Seriously, listen to the music that happens after you kill the target in Hitman.
Highmore Consulting is planning a merger. I want to know with whom and at what price.
All right. Consider it done.
And that's for you. Keep it on you at all times. Last resort.
Cyanide. Good choice.
We've got trouble.
Well done, 47. Victor Novikov is next.
Yeah, pretty tense, right? Means something's actually happening. In fact, look, some guy actually beat Yandere Sim in 2 minutes. I thought I found the easiest way, but Mighty Mouse, oh man, that's a pretty good one. By the way, Alex keeps trying to patch all these ways for killing her out, but you'd only ever find these if you were deliberately trying to go for speed runs of the game, which happens when you play a game like Hitman, you know, because they build in those mechanics for you to do stuff like that. But in this game, no, we can't do that. We got to make sure that Osana is built up and you can't beat her in like 5 seconds, but literally, it's in your best interest to beat her as soon as possible because there's a timer counting down towards Friday. Wouldn't you want to get rid of her as soon as possible to focus on building a relationship with Senpai? Well, you can't because apparently Yandere-chan just breaks down into a puddle of womanly goo because Senpai is just the hottest wet napkin in town. There's seriously nothing rewarding about these kills, and I genuinely do mean that, you know, and we're comparing it to contemporaries like Hitman. There's not really much there in comparison to a game like Hitman. I get it, it's just a demo, but, you know, any other kill is just gonna be wasting your fucking time. There's no rewards for doing something special or different, and really, would you want to stand behind a tree for like an hour listening to Osana and Pigtail's conversation about something that doesn't matter anyway? There's a post about this on r/Osana, by the way, so this comes from them, and I'll leave the post linked down below. One of the best parts of my favorite stealth action games is getting to redo early missions with different content that I've unlocked through the course of playing the game. Hitman revels in the replayability of its missions by including things like new costumes, new starting zones, new weapons, new equipment, new gear, new hidden locations to put extra gear, you know, all this stuff to make replays more valuable. And then on top of that, you also have the contract generation system and player-made contracts. MGSV gives you new weapons and tons of gadgets to just tackle a stealth mission in a variety of different ways. Hell, Dishonored allows you to reach new areas and see more when you have more abilities, offering up more choice when you replay the game with everything unlocked. Now, the subreddit basically recommended a lot of passive buffs or some kind of passive buff, but I really think it should be something more tangible or something really added to the game to give it a bit more depth. You know, something that can change how later missions will play and really just open up the game a lot more to some of that sandbox type nature that Hitman and other stealth games are known for. Hell, even opening up more content with Senpai because you killed the target early would be great. Give me like a dating sim in place of like the whole murder stealth mission crap. If I can kill a rival day 1 of the week before the next one shows up, then I should be able to do other things. Yandere-chan ain't gonna get the man of her life if she's just completely fawning over how the fact he just sits there idly and doesn't do shit. Now, let's talk about the social deception, right? Because it is horrendous, right? Okay, so you're gonna stalk Osana, drag her away from everyone with the note. Yeah, good luck with that. You're gonna do a lot of trying to figure out what she likes and what kind of person she is, and you can't write it down. You can't just take a guess. You gotta figure it out. While the social deception in Hitman has you getting closer to target by dressing up as different people and pretending to be somebody you're not, the social deception in this high school murder simulator is much less engaging. You don't actually become an active participant in events like you do in Hitman. You don't pretend to be a drummer. You don't pretend to be a runway model. You just stand behind a tree. You are literally making it more tedious for yourself. Seriously. You are watching these events happen. You are a viewer in some of the most bland anime schlock ever. You are watching fun events happen, where it would be more fun if you were a person involved in the situation. The humor in Hitman comes from the crazy things Agent 47 can for some reason do. Like, why is he qualified to be all of these different things and also be an assassin? That's funny. There is nothing funny about being this girl standing behind a tree listening to some high schooler talk about a fucking book that her sister gave her. Like, you gotta stand behind a tree to find out she's going to give Senpai food, and then you gotta fuck off on your own to figure out how you're gonna take advantage of that. There is zero help whatsoever from that conversation. They just say, I'm gonna give him lunch today because I like him. Oh my god, yeah, okay, great. I'm glad I got to overhear this conversation, but what can I do with this information? There's no plan of action. It's just, I'm gonna do a thing. There's this huge, like, sandbox, you know, similar to Hitman, but anything but the cleanest, safest solution is just a game over. It might as well not even be a choice. This improvisation is impossible because of invincible NPCs. Using fun weapons can get you caught because apparently a student holding a prop for a play is equal to holding a kitchen knife, which doesn't make sense either. I don't know why these things are on the same level of danger, because they're not. Seriously, social deception in this game is nothing but sitting there and trying to figure out what color the person likes. That's not fun at all. It is so boring. Like, when you look at Paris, you can already do a lot, you know, and they put the target right there. Like, you can be a crazy person and just shoot the guy the second you see him and run about the level hiding from patrols, and it is a completely different level than if you were to do social stealth and pretend to be a model who is also a super spy and get into the meetings with both of the targets in this level, because there's two. Oh, you can also be a bartender and poison and drown him, which at least is active participation in the situation, right? Here, you just poison her, right? But in this one, it creates a whole scenario out of you poisoning them in the most comedically ridiculous way possible, because apparently Agent 47 is a crazy good bartender. You know, you can pretend to be with the target, you can just shoot the target, you can take part in a supervillain auction. This doesn't even need to be in the game, and most players are probably never gonna do it if they only play the game once. But it is just something that's there. Look, the great thing about games is they make you a participant in the action. If you are not a participant in the action, the game is not being fun. If you want to make a game engaging, make the player a part of the action. For example, let's say she gets the bento box from like a food stand or something. Now Yandere-chan is also the person who works the food stand, you know? Like, who says that can't happen, all right? This is already a girl who's like crazy and murdering people for her lover. So don't even come at me about the realism shit. There's nothing realistic about this game. So just lead into the fun stuff, please. Seriously, Yandere Simulator just makes you a viewer in the most milquetoast anime romance story ever. Stealthing is there. It might as well just not be there because the AI has ridiculous tunnel vision and, you know, they don't see me carry Osana to the furnace. It's just bad social stealth all around, you know. There's no hiding in a crowd. None of that. Actually, people push you away from being in crowds. They don't like it when you invade their space. You know, the adaptability of the AI in games like MGSV and Hitman, it really shows you how bad this is in comparison. Like, yes, there are guards on patrol in the school. They're basically like glorified hall monitors. I guess they're part of the student council. They're the students in white, but they also have terrible vision, and there are too few of them in the game to even be a threat to begin with. Normal students are even less of a threat. You know, there's a generous time where you can run away from students. Like really generous, more generous than some stealth games, where you could run away from a student covered in blood and they won't notice or do anything. There is like a rise in threat by a guard spotting you if you're like playing another stealth game. You know, when you're Snake in MGSV, you get spotted by a guard. Guards begin patrolling in tactical, systematic ways, and there is a threat that is engaged, right? But in Yandere Simulator, it just starts a countdown, and these invincible students that are littered throughout the game just make it impossible to pull off a appropriate stealth game. That it's just not there. Look, anybody who plays a lot of stealth action games can tell you this. When there is an instant game over for being spotted, it's horrible. Nobody wants an instant game over. This is just the same thing, but it gives you 5 minutes. Well, how about reactive stealth elements, right? Where you can respond to action around you. There is nothing aside from cleaning up. There's really nothing unless you're gonna just make the situation worse by killing another student. Seriously, you could switch out all the characters in this game for gray boxes, and it would still be a mediocre stealth game. The anime shit has nothing to do with it. Let's look at reactive stealth in a game like SWAT 4. SWAT 4 is a stealth tactical shooter where visuals play a key role in success, right? The game follows standard SWAT procedures and rules of engagement. So, for example, you cannot shoot a target unless you or someone else's life is in immediate danger. You know, you yell at the criminal to say, put your gun down. They don't put your gun down. They point the gun at you. You shoot them.
Talk, this is Sierra 1. Element has moved out of visual contact.
Heads up, dropping a bang. Suspect spotted.
Somebody drop your weapon! You're on. Clear.
No one here.
Suspect
clear.
compliant. In position. Clear.
Dock to entry team. Objectives complete.
Seriously, you actually have a dedicated yell for compliance button in this game. SWAT 4 is great. Play SWAT 4. There's a new game called Ready or Not coming out. Guys at Ready or Not, please send me the game. I will do anything to play your game. You have this dedicated button, and a criminal might comply, and as they begin to raise their hands, they might do it slowly, right? But sometimes the criminal be raising their hand to shoot you, so you gotta shoot him. And there's a small visual cue that tells you this is gonna happen. And it happens fast. And the slow movement speed of this game means that every single second and move you make counts. MGSV, loaded with visual cues. Hell, even the older MGS games, loaded with visual cues. Flashlights, sirens, patrols, Hitman, musical cues. Guards giving out locations, saying where something is. There are people talking to each other, trying to coordinate their finding of you. Without these things in YandSim, you can't even gauge what's happening. When it's happening, where it's happening, when something important is occurring. You know, your extrasensory, like, peripherals that you're looking around to be like, oh, is something going on? Is something important? It's not there. It's just, you have to rely on the UI, and the UI isn't good enough to tell me when something is happening where. I can't react to anything in a stealth manner because of how the game is structured. It's really a guessing game of following AI routines as they fumble in circles before they stop at a certain time to talk about something that may or may not be important. There's really no reason to listen and learn about Osana, But if you do, you realize that Yandere-chan's just kind of an ass. Seriously, the best time I had with Yandere Simulator was the user-generated missions, or I guess they're not user, they're AI-generated missions, right? That literally work exactly like Hitman's generated contracts. These allow for much more streamlined kill the target missions, and honestly, you have access to everything in these moments, and it is so much better. This is what the game actually should be, which is just Hitman with anime. That's all it needed to be, and that's all it needs to do. But instead, it's trying to be so much more. The game is littered with these ridiculous half-baked RPG mechanics, stealth assassination gameplay where characters are invincible unless prerequisites are met in the RPG, and then you have other extra crap that doesn't need to be there at all, like a fake Discord simulator and an AR minigame and guys, there's a fully operational shmup in Yandere Simulator. Why is that here?
What is this? Why is there a shmup in here? Why is there a shmup in here? Are you kidding? Well, this runs better than the this runs better than Yandere Sim. This is a better game. I like this more. I think we'll play this. You telling me there's like a whole fucking bunch of these mini games like that in here? Yandere Dev. Fucking get some priorities.
But there's a lot of downtime in this game without any of the tension that games like Hitman or MGSV even have, okay? Hell, even the downtime in Persona is littered with great character interaction. Where are the characters? Where is any of that? I don't give a shit about Pigtails or Osana, and Senpai is off the table, right? So what am I to do? You know, before this video, I said that scope needed to be reduced, but now I definitely know I'm right in that assumption. The ideas here are just conflicting, you know? Yandev keeps patching out exploits and fun methods in the game, making it really more of a slog without getting to the fundamental problem that really the ways you kill Osana aren't that fun or interesting. This game is what happens when you and your friends have a "wouldn't it be cool if" conversation. If you've ever had the conversation with your friends about combining two things to make a cool thing, that's basically what Yandere Simulator is. You know, it's someone who thought of a bunch of great food and assuming combining all of the ingredients from that great food together would make these foods even more great when you make the superfood. Ultimately, all you do is make a mess because mixing pizza and ice cream shows you that pizza and ice cream are really good on their own, but they're just a mess together. So why not just eat pizza or eat ice cream and save yourself the trouble of this mess?
Okay, sure. This is the end of day sequence, yada yada yada. Hello? Game? Wow, I sure learned a lot at that end of day sequence. Tiny thong panties, $10.
Run along. You're not welcome here.
He sounds like a kid. Right, is he supposed to be Yakuza? Is he supposed to be some criminal, huh? Why does all the music in here sound like porn? I had no idea this was in the game. Are you kidding me, man? So a couple of things happened. So over the course of since the demo released, Yandev has been patching the shit out of speed running methods and other things, which is funny because it's not answering the problem, as a speedrunner said, who will be linked below. But as you all know, I've made the new podcast, and I had an episode with Kappa, who was featured in a Yandev video, and Yandev knows who he is. So Kappa was banned on the Twitch because Kappa and I on the podcast talked about how he would watch Yandev. so Yandev banned him. Yandev is a VTuber now. You notice how the girl in the hate and shame video you know, that's not Yandev. That's what he said. He said that's not him. But then why is his VTuber avatar the girl from the Hate and Shame video? Listen, buddy, I understand you want to appear more innocent than you are, but let's not beat around the bush here in saying that you would definitely buy used panties if they came in a vending machine. All I'm saying is, you are what you eat, and you, sir, are a fucking degenerate. I honestly fucking Hate and Shame too. Please, where is it? What are you gonna be this time? Maybe switch your VTuber to a nice little puppy, right? And say that it's a little puppy's being bullied on the internet and people are mean to him. That's what this is. You're a stupid idiot.
Alright, so hopefully this was an in-depth discussion of the mechanics and all that stuff, right? Because I am exhausted. I've been talking for like 45 minutes. Please, guys, if you like what I do here, subscribe and hit the bell. You can also subscribe to my podcast, Explain It Slowly, which I will have linked down below. You can also support me on Patreon at FPS Diesel, where you get early access to the podcast, exclusive content, ideas on different things like academic stuff I enjoy, and extra videos, and to me talking about what it's like to make commercial film and all that stuff. There's tons of content there. I try to make it worth your while. You can also follow me on social media at FPS Diesel. I post on Instagram pictures of my face, and I also have another Instagram where I post pictures of pictures and tons of stuff. I'm everywhere on the internet. Go out there, find FPS Diesel. You'll find me there. I'm out there. Please go. Make sure I have clout, because it's all I have. Please. No, but seriously, guys, I'm coming down to the end of my education, so I'd really like to go full-time in this, because I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, because I can't make film, because we live in a dystopia, and if you haven't noticed, California is literally Blade Runner, so please help. Please make me go full-time. I am desperate, please.
I don't fuck with these niggas. Always been one up on all of these niggas. They be trying to front for all of these bitches. Man, I ain't got time cause they all in they feelings. Ice of the gang and we making a killing. It's 2020 and they notice the vision. You be the hero, I'm playing the villain. The underdogs and we walk in the building. We getting money, yeah, they think that we dealing. They talking hot, yeah, fuck they opinions. And we won't stop till we all touch $1 million. Don't ever forgive, but we probably forgiving my nigga, I'm living. Taking the cards that was given, my blessings is already written. Wrapped little ribbon, putting ourselves in positions to making some major decisions. Started from the mud, now you see us go.